Hi friends, welcome back. My name is Catherine Hubert. I am the owner here at Chez Genèse. We've had some new subscribers since last week, so thank you so much and welcome to our virtual community. We are a French-inspired cafe located in the heart of downtown Greensboro, North Carolina, and we aim to change the way that our world both views and employs adults with intellectual developmental disabilities. We are a business, which is something that we talked about in our video from last week, so if you haven't seen that yet, we recommend that you check it out. That gives you actually gives you a pretty good foundation and explanation as to why we are structured the way that we are. We are spending the month of January really diving into and nerding out on our business model so that we can continue in our work of education and advocacy, specifically around the unemployment rate for adults with disabilities and how we hope to make a change in that. Today, we are going to be talking about exceptionalism versus equality. That distinction has become more apparent and more clearly defined for me over the past several months, and it's something that I think is an important distinction and one that I want to clarify for you as our audience. So, in disability employment and in businesses or nonprofits that seek to employ people with disabilities, there are several different ways that you can go about that. As we have described here, we are an integrated work model, which means just over 50% of our staff are disabled adults, not 100% of our staff, and we seek and hope to provide equal opportunities in terms of growth and roles and responsibilities. The majority of our staff that works here had not worked in a restaurant previously and got their exposure to the industry on this job. About half of our team, maybe a little bit over, have been with us since the very beginning. And it's been incredible to see the growth, both personally and professionally, in our team over the years. And we're looking for more and more ways to include disabled voices in our leadership team, in the decisions that we're making, in the education that we are providing, in the workshops that we're doing for our city, for people who are in our city. Those are not virtual yet, but we are doing them in-house, and hopefully we'll provide them virtually at some point this year. And then also in the marketing and the content that we are producing. So that's an important thing to us in terms of how we're made up. We believe that we can learn and grow best in an environment where there is a lot of neurodiversity, and that's seen and celebrated, and there's a chance for each person to contribute, to have a voice, to be present, and to really be weighing in on things that are impacting or affecting them. So, that being said, a trend that I have witnessed through education and through employment when working with people with disabilities is that a disabled person is treated as the exception. We'll get into other videos later about disability language and some terms to avoid. One term or concept definitely to avoid is the concept of normal or typical. I think that it's an illusion in the first place that there actually is a normal or a typical, because every single human being is unique and different, learns differently, grows differently, has different passions, dreams, desires, etc. That's part of what makes the world such a beautiful, wonderful, messy place. So I think we're kidding ourselves to think that there's a bulk of any population that fits within a mold or a box. I think we've just happened to have enough people fit inside of a box and survive there, which doesn't necessarily mean that they're doing well within that system or structure. And then we tend to think of people outside of that structure as not conforming, or then there's emphasis placed on something being abnormal or atypical, and we want to push against that, and remove that idea that there is a norm, that there is a typical, and that someone is always or frequently the exception to a system or a structure, and instead view each individual as being unique in and of themselves, and knowing that their needs and their desires are going to be different, and how do we meet that person where they're at? How do we present ourselves in the world and express our own needs and desires and allow people to meet us in that as well? So in employment, that oftentimes plays out as, here's the standard or the expectation that is normal, and then the person with the disability is the exception. They don't have to meet the same standard or the same, follow the same rule or have the same process. That's damaging on multiple levels. It's damaging to the business and then not adhering the same standard across the board. It's damaging to that person too, and to their self-worth as a human, and also doesn't speak to the intelligence and the heart and the skills that they bring to the table. So our hope in our business model is to provide equality and be willing to form adaptions. That means that the standard stays the same across the board. We are willing, however, to adapt a system or a process so that each individual can successfully meet the same standard. We do not change or lower the standard or the mission or the concept of who we are to meet a person. We instead change a structure, a routine, a system, etc., so that that person can successfully meet the same standard. An example of that would be, we expect all of our teammates to arrive to work on time, regardless of their method of transportation. And we have a staff waiting area because some of our staff take public transportation, which is not always consistent and reliable. And we promote them arriving early to work rather than late. But because we're a small restaurant and there's not a lot of space up here, we have a space in the back for people to wait until it's time for their shift to start. So that would be an example of the standard's the same. We don't say, oh, it's fine for you to not arrive to work on time because X, Y, or Z. That is not helpful to us. We do need everyone to be here, and we need everyone to be here on time. But I can provide a safe and comfortable and warm place for you to wait so that you can still meet the standard and attend to the transportation need or avenue that you have. So as we continue to move forward, and we're always challenging ourselves in that process, I will say that. We learn things every day. So there are moments where I catch myself and I'm like, you're making an exception here. Shifting that way of thinking, right? Which some of that comes from my own experiences in the world of disabilities and disability culture. We've moved from, in my lifetime, in education, it's currently called special education, which I'm kind of waiting to see when that terminology changes, but previously you had exceptional children was the terminology for disabled children within the school system. So there is this idea that I think we've been steeped in, that which is all. There's so much to uncover. We're going to talk about so many good things this year, guys. We just get excited. We're going to get into euphemisms around disabilities and disability culture, and exceptional children is one of them, where it oftentimes does more harm than good to talk around something instead of just talking about it. But because we've lived in that culture, and that's something that has been encouraged as a gentler and a softer way to talk about disabilities, as if there was something wrong about disabilities, which again is another whole topic that we will get into. All these things are so tied together and integrated. But because we've been encouraged in that direction, it's a re-shattering or a shattering period of the foundation that we've come to know and expect and to enforce, learning how to not only rewrite our own internal narratives and ideology, but then getting that out into our verbal communication and processes. And then from there, actually into our actions and the way that we structure and the way that we operate. So we're still dabbling in a little bit of all of those fields, the internal narratives, the verbal communication, and the physical operations. But behind all of that is equality, regarding all humans as humans, setting a standard that is consistent across the board and for our entire team, disability or not, but accommodating different practices and systems so that each member of our team can be successful in their job and have room for growth. That's it. That was a little bit scattered because I didn't quite connect on the front end how many different paths are like converging in this one topic. So things we'll talk about in the future are euphemisms that are being used in disability culture, this idea of the norm or something being typical and how we can break that. And then terms and language that you should avoid when talking about disabilities. So thank you for tuning in today. We're so thankful that you are here. If you don't already, please subscribe to our channel. We have made it a goal to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of this year, and you are helping us get well on our way to that. So thank you for that. And then like, comment. We love to get to interact with y'all in an online capacity. If you found this valuable and informative and think that there's someone else in your life who would too, and you don't mind sharing it with them, we would love that. So thank you, and we will see you next week for, I think what's written on my whiteboard is how to present offensive information in just the right amount of offensive. I think that goes into rewriting some of the scripts and the narratives that we have. So I'm going to tackle that one, and we'll be back next week.